Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing great. Welcome back to the No Name Podcast, as we do every Tuesday night, if we are able. Uh, we're glad to have you with us today. We're gonna be talking about a lot of things. We're talking about the Marvels, the What If newest episode. Luis is gonna give us his take on Free Guy. We're gonna talk about Donda. Manuel gonna talk about Donda. Maybe Rubykat as well. I haven't heard it. And some other good stuff. So I hope you'll stick with us through this, and let's get right into it. So how you guys been, Manuel? How you been? How was this week for you?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. It's been a difficult week, but in video game world, it's been a good one.
Yeah, and I hope you're gonna tell us all about that. Luis, what about you, man? How's your week been? You've been doing a little bit better, I hope.
Yeah, yeah, a whole lot better. Yeah, work is really good. It's treating me good, and I've been able to, squeeze some time to play some stuff. There's something there.
That's good. That's good. Always a little bit of time for our hobbies and stuff like that. Ruby Cat, what about you? Good week?
Oh, the week has been fantastic. I mean, I'm free
Man,
to
you
do
always one up on
anything.
everybody.
I'm sorry.
Fantastic, amazing. Everyone like it's been good. All right, but now
So let's
Everything is
talk
that
about
do go
one.
on. Do go on. Let us know how fantastic your week has been. How the bomb your week has been.
everything is awesome. Like the Lego song. Everything is good. You're part of the
It's bomb. It's a big bomb of awesome. If that makes sense. No, I've been playing more Persona 5, the Scrabble one on Nintendo Switch. I think I'm close to ending it because I'm on like the final stages of the palace, unless they make some twists. And I've been playing that Mass Effect Legendary Edition a little bit, and I just been golfing and just enjoying the outdoors because there's good weather for now.
It's a good weather. It's not all what is like the oh my
The
god.
fire.
Yeah, like the fire and everything like that been
Yeah.
better about there.
So where I am, it's currently 70 degrees around every day, so it's good weather. The fires haven't reached yet this area, or like at least the smoke. But I was in a wedding this weekend in West Lake Shore, Tahoe, which is west of South Lake Tahoe. And South Lake Tahoe has two fires in between, and they evacuated that area. And now that's like, it's destroying all the ski resorts and everything. So it's a very, very sad loss. So they closed all the national parks in California because there's fires everywhere.
Oh wow.
So it might
Yeah,
reach us,
they
but
started evacuation right in Tahoe. That's what I heard. They started evacuate, mandatory evacuation.
yeah, I was there on Friday for a wedding and they announced a mandatory evacuation. So we left on Saturday to just run away from it also. Kind of chaotic, but otherwise things are good.
Yeah, hopefully things get better, for yourself, for everybody going through it out there. So with that, we're out. Yeah, let me talk about my week. I started school back up, and I started this new job. So I've been really, really busy. But otherwise, working on that schedule, and it's been good. I've been very fortunate, very blessed with these opportunities. So with that, let's get right into it. Movies and TV is, as always, our first thing that we talk about. Manuel, you had a movie that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I saw. How many of you guys are familiar with Bob Ross? I was gonna bring out. I just remembered I was gonna bring out the little toy that I have of Bob Ross or whatever, just to show that I'm a fan or whatever. But anyway, any of you guys know anything about Bob Ross?
Yeah, I've seen, a couple episodes
Yeah,
on the
so
internet.
basically, yeah, he's a painter, right? So he was a painter because he's dead, right? So basically, the 70s, 80s, and whatnot. So I saw a documentary. It's on Netflix. I can't remember what it's called, but I'm pretty sure it's like Like it's like a very ominous name. Like they make it because Bob Ross is known for his. He's a nice guy. He's very mellow. He talks very peacefully. He's the first guy. He didn't know this. Obviously, this wasn't intentional, but we now know that he's the first guy that invented ASMR. I don't know if anybody like he's the one that invented ASMR because the way the brush strokes and the painting and stuff like the sound, it was very relaxing. That's why so many people watched it and we didn't know it back then. But anyway, they got this documentary and I wanted to talk about it briefly because I'm a big Bob Ross fan. Like Bob Ross and Mr. Rogers, those are like my two heroes, which seems weird if you know who those guys are. But I was very interested. I'm like, yes, finally, people are gonna hear about this guy, why he's famous, etc. The documentary is less about Bob Ross and more about basically it's an excuse. His son seems to be a big part of it. It's an excuse to try to attack basically these two people that worked with Bob Ross in real life. And basically the point of the documentary is to show how those two people are evil. And they're doing harm to Bob Ross's legacy. That's what the documentary is basically about. And that is like very frustrating because the few parts that talk about Bob Ross are so amazing. Like it's just wow. Like when you start learning the details that why he said what he said, why he painted the way he painted, why he talked the way he talked. Like those parts are awesome, especially if you're a fan, right? But then you realize they're just doing this to try to get it out there that, hey, these guys are stealing money from Bob Ross. We got to do something about it. And I didn't like that. I didn't appreciate that. So I don't recommend the documentary that's on Netflix right now. And it's not a good documentary either. Like the way it's done is not good. But I just wanted to bring it up because I wanted to, tell everybody like Bob Ross is awesome. And he's worth looking into. Like if you have insomnia, for example, he's a good thing to watch. You can watch all of the episodes on YouTube. You can watch it before going to sleep or whatever. I want to say one thing real quick because I know you guys don't seem to be too interested in Bob Ross. So I just want to say this real quick. Like one of the things that really impacted me was because he's always known for like you can look online, you can say Bob Ross quotes, and he's really known for that because while he's painting, he always says like certain quotes or whatever, and he became famous for that as well. But the documentary does a good job of explaining like what was going on in his life at that time, and then you hear the quote and you're like, wow, this is what he's saying. So I want to give two brief examples. One example was when like he says in one of the episodes, like, I love painting because this is the only time that I'm free. I'm in charge here. This is the only time that I can do what I want. And when you're listening to it, you're like, wow, yeah, that's cool. Like that is true. That's what painting, that's what art does. But then you realize that at that time in his life, he was literally going through that because he was struggling with those two guys that I mentioned earlier. They were trying to steal his name, they're trying to take control of everything. He wasn't able to do things the way he wanted to do it. So he was literally fighting for freedom in his real life. And that's what he was saying in the episode while he was painting. So us as fans, we don't realize that's what he's saying, but that's what he's saying. And the last thing that I want to mention is that another example of this, in one of the episodes, because he's known for like the happy accidents and mistakes and all that stuff, and he's known for that. And one of the episodes, he says like painting, through painting we express our emotions sometimes without even realizing. Like when we're having a difficult time, we tend to paint darker pictures, and when we're having a good time, we paint lighter pictures and whatnot. And he mentions this like a brief comment in passing. He says like, I'm waiting for my good times right now. Like he kind of says like he's going through a hard time, and you hear that and you just ignore it because now that's just Bob Ross, but in real life at that time, he didn't tell anybody, but he was struggling at that time with cancer. He was dying literally of cancer at that time. His wife had died like a month before from cancer, before he got diagnosed of cancer. And that's what he was going through while he was painting and telling and giving us these inspirational quotes. And when you look at it in that way, it's so impactful, man. It's so impactful. Bob Ross and Mr. Rogers. Yeah, I agree, Big Ooze. Those two worth looking into, man. But not the documentary. Look into Bob Ross, but not that documentary. That documentary is pretty bad.
Something else maybe that actually just talks about him. I do recall watching it, some of his stuff, and that's one of the things that I took away was where he would call the little happy accidents, right? And then so you make a mistake, and I think there's a lesson to be learned there for life itself. You make those little mistakes, but that's not gonna be the end of it. You can make that into something better and stuff like that. So absolutely, it was definitely somebody worth watching, and all these little inspirational quotes and stuff like that.
100%. If anybody you guys are interested in Mr. Rogers, however, because I could talk about, we might need a Mr. Rogers section as well. Let's not do that, but I could talk about him for hours. I highly recommend the documentary. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's called "Would You Be My Neighbor" or "Won't You Be My Neighbor?" I think that's what it's called. An incredible documentary, whether you like Mr. Rogers or not. Like, it's very well done. If you've never heard of Mr. Rogers, that's the best documentary. If you know Mr. Rogers, that's the best documentary. So I highly recommend that one.
That one's not taking shots on anybody, just talking about
No,
him.
that's 100% about him, and it goes into so much detail of his life and behind the scenes. That's what the documentary is about. That's what I wanted from Ms. Bob Ross. Like, I wanted to know his upbringing, why he got into painting, and I wanted to know all that stuff, and they didn't talk about any of that.
Yeah, it's upsetting. You're going into it, and then you have to go through other medias to try to figure that kind of stuff because it doesn't really hit where it's supposed to. That's very unfortunate. Let's go then to we're gonna talk about this one real quick. I think maybe Manuel and I don't know if Rubykat and Luis have any opinion or anything like that. Ben Simmons. It's been rumored that he doesn't want to show up to training camp, nothing like that. He wants to just be out of the Sixers, I guess. Let's start with Manuel. Manuel, what is your take on this?
Like I told you in the chat, it's a joke. Like that comment is a joke. Who are you to say you don't want to be a part of the trading camp? Like who is this guy, Ben Simmons? Like the Lakers. I mean, the Sixers literally offered you to all these teams in the league. Nobody wants you. You refuse to become a better player, not because you're not good, because you refuse to become better. You don't want to become better. This is who I am. And now that nobody wants you, you dare say, I don't want to be in the Lakers? Like, who is this guy? This is a joke. This is the type of stuff, and I feel for him
And the Sixers.
I feel for him as a human being, but come on, like, this is the type of stuff that gets you kicked out of the league completely. And if it happens, I wouldn't be surprised.
I think that's you hit it right on the nail, the nail right there, because this guy gets paid like a ridiculous amount of money, and basically, we're not gonna say, oh, it's not a real job or anything like that, but you have to put your effort towards it, and he is flat out saying, even if that's not what he meant, that's how it was perceived. So now, as you say, he's been shopped around the league. Their Sixers are basically gonna get pennies on the dollars if they're able to trade him. That's not what they wanted to do, because I think they're riding a little too high on him now that everybody's really seeing what he I don't know. I've seen people defending it that maybe if he goes somewhere else and stuff like that, because they had a similar situation with Markel Fultz, where I don't know if you remember that, right? But he was having issues, with the basketball aspect and stuff like that. Maybe something in his head. And he left to a different. They traded him to a different situation in Orlando, where he was able to flourish a little bit before injuries caught up again. But I don't know. I mean, I think he has to want to work on it, and that's the problem, right? It's just him flat out saying, "Oh, this is who I am." Okay, if this is who you are, you're I mean, you don't have the gravity, right? Like, as a player, you're a good playmaker, but nobody's guarding you anywhere except under the rim. And at this point, he wouldn't even do that, right? So what is your value really?
Yeah, I say maybe what he needs is maybe he's just a really, really good role player. Like, maybe he could just go to another team and become a really good role player, and that might be it. Maybe he's just not the star that everybody wanted him to be, So there's players that are like that. I mean, we gotta accept that some players just aren't made to be the star of a team or whatever. And this guy was put in the process of Philadelphia and all this stuff, and there was a lot of expectations for this season, especially for the Sixers, and he wasn't able to handle it. Like, let's be honest. So maybe what's best for him is to be on another team and become a role player. If that's what you want to do, then do that. But at this point of the game, a star that makes what he makes, like, this isn't it. This isn't the attitude that we need from you. This isn't the way to do it.
I think that's the hard pill to swallow to that contract. I mean, but Philly gave him a buttload of money, and now
Yeah.
in order to like he's gonna okay, so he's a pretty good defender, stuff like that. But what else is he gonna give you like that? So it's a lot of money. I don't know. I don't know who's
Yeah,
really gonna
and
end up doing that.
that's what really gets me too. Like the last thing I want to say on this is like I'm a LeBron fan, so I'm following the Lakers right now, or whatever. But my heart has always been with Philly, right? That's my team. That I was raised in Pennsylvania, so Philadelphia were the games that we go to, right? So that's my team. Allen Iverson is my favorite player of all time. So my heart goes out to Philly, and it's like, man, they can't get it to work, right? No matter what, they just can't get it to work, and that's what kind of hurts me a little bit. I wish they would I don't know, get some luck or a better administration or something. I don't know.
It did feel like they were finally coming up, and then a situation like this comes up. I agree with you. I definitely feel for Philly in this one because I mean, again, I don't feel it too much for him personally because first off, he made his money. That as we can now see, I don't think he deserved that much. And secondly, he's the one that brought it on himself, being like, "Oh, I'm not gonna work on my craft." Then what value do you bring, especially on that contract? So but we definitely do feel it for Philly. Luis Rubykat, you got anything on this one?
Just the fact that he's a basketball player and doesn't want to play, that's so weird. That's all I'm gonna say to him.
Well, he does want to play. He doesn't want to get better. He doesn't want to become a better player.
And
That's
he
the
doesn't want
problem.
to play for them, for this
And
team
he's
that paid him a
Yeah.
buttload of money.
I would
Big
say
Goose.
that I don't know, because I don't follow the league no more. This is just me from the casual observer. But I think that basketball players nowadays are more like, I don't know, like pop stars in a way. They try to be fantastic. They try to be like special or whatever, and they lack the game. They just lack the game. All the big stars nowadays, they try to be more famous in Twitter or any other sphere, but not in the court. And I think that might have affected the league overall. Big Goose said something here. Unfortunately, the NBA is a soft league all around anymore. I don't know. I don't follow the league, but the thing is that there's nothing for me that attracts, a casual fan. I used to follow the league like really close. Buying sneakers, having trading cards, watching every game, all that. But I don't know. There's not that rivalry, that I don't know that finesse in the court. There's not a whole of that. So I don't know.
I mean, the kind of league. I think I'm gonna have to agree with Big Goose and you. What the league that we grew up watching is not the league that we have now. For a variety of reasons, but yeah, I think it's missing that key. Like for example, back in the day, if somebody uh, couldn't get through a hurdle on another team, they wouldn't join it. I'm not trying to shoot on anybody, right? But you would try to get over the hump instead of trying to join them and then make a super team and whatever. But
Oh,
I
it got
think
paused. Oh, there you go.
okay, yeah. So so I think that's unfortunate because I did like that
Yeah,
rivalries and that kind of thing.
I don't know. Like, this is a good topic. We could talk. Maybe we could bring Big Ooze or whatever someday and talk about this because I'm kind of conflicted about that. What you just said, and what Big Ooze is saying, because I get both sides. Like, yeah, the league is very different from what it used to, and I know that's one of the critiques from LeBron James, for example. Like, Michael Jordan would have never done what LeBron has done, right? Like LeBron tries to be friends with everybody. Michael Jordan had rivals, and like I'm not teaming up with you, and he would talk smack and all that stuff, and people love that, and that's what gave him his fire, right? You talk about Kobe Bryant, the same. Like he has that fire in him that somebody like LeBron doesn't have. And I get that aspect of it. We could say the league is softer in that sense as well. But at the same time, it's just a different league. I enjoy the technicality of this league more than the league in the 90s, right? In the 80s. Like the 90s and the 80s were much more physical. It was less skill based. That's why somebody like Michael Jordan was able to shine as much as he was. I mean, just think about it. How many big superstars that we have in the 70s, 80s, and 90s? Like we had a lot of big superstars. Think about how many big superstars exist today. Why? Because everybody shoots now. everybody can get rebounds. Everybody can run the ball. Like everybody does a little bit of everything.
It's
And if
true.
you don't do a little bit of everything, you're a bad player. Like that's the league today, right? And back in Michael Jordan's
Ben
day,
Simmons.
like yeah, back in the Michael Jordan's day, like you could. I'm not saying Michael Jordan is not the greatest because I still think he's the greatest of all time, but I think it's a little easier to shine in that league because you just had to have more skill than somebody else, and that's was unheard of. Back then, it was much more physical. It was much more intensity. It was hard. I mean, just look at Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman is not skilled in any way compared to other big men or power forwards or whatever. But he had heart and he had grit and he was always he wanted that ball more than anybody else, right? So I just think the league is different. You know, I'm kind of conflicted in that. I don't know if this league today is better or worse than the league in the 80s and 90s. I just think it's two different types of leagues, and I enjoy this league just like I enjoyed that league as well.
It's different for
I would
sure. I
say
mean, I
that.
agree with the whole thing about the skill set nowadays, where you got 7 footers doing the kind of things that they're doing. Kevin Durant, of course, comes to mind, one of the best to do it right now, and of all time, I think. And just he's about a 7 foot tall. No matter it don't matter what nobody else tells me. I think he's about 7 feet tall, and the things that he does are ridiculous. So I agree with that. I think maybe I'm missing a little bit. It may be nostalgia, I don't know, but I think I'm missing a little bit of that aspect where you were mentioned with Rodman, the grit and the determination, just that drive to be. But like, I think I see maybe Russell Westbrook now, something like that. I think, and there'll be a lot of people criticize him for
Yes,
it.
I was gonna say Russell Westbrook. Yes, he's clearly from old school type basketball, and he's not a champion. So what wins rings nowadays? You know, that's my point, right?
Hmm.
So it's like in boxing, and I know Luis wants to say something real quick, but it's like when boxing, when people start saying like, I'm not gonna make an argument for Mayweather as the best boxer of all time because he's not. In my eyes, he's not. But I do think he's one of the best, if not the best, in this era, this past era, right? But people get mad like Mayweather is boring because he doesn't have heart. He doesn't go toe to toe with people. He doesn't. Yeah, but look at people like Miguel Cotto. Look at people like Zab Judah, Mosley, and any of the greats of these past decades that are fighters. Look at Manny Pacquiao, like how he finishes his career. All of these people have lost. All of these people have gotten knocked down or hit hard or whatever. Like my point is you're asking for a particular type of fighter because it's entertaining, but that type of fighter doesn't necessarily win, right? Or always win. And the league nowadays in basketball, we're asking for a certain type of player like Russell Westbrook, but those players don't win today, right? The players that win are the Kevin Durant's, is the LeBron James. You know, those high. I don't know. It's just different. I don't think those players, unless the league itself transforms back into what it was, I don't think those type of players can become winners today. They're more like we're gonna see what happens with the Lakers this year, right? To see if Russell Westbrook can bring that to the Lakers and if it affects the harmony or whatever. But I just don't think that's what it is anymore. I just don't
the
think that's the way to win.
the only thing I'm gonna shoot off real quick before we head to Luis is gonna be the refereeing on these games are atrocious though sometimes.
Definitely,
Like it's
100%.
much worse than it used to be, at least on that aspect. And
Some
it really does ruin the experience when you're watching
yes,
it. It just that
yes.
say like the last 30 seconds of a game lasts like a half hour because
The
of that.
referees should not determine the winner of a game. Period. The referees should not determine the winner of a game. When if a referee is determining the winner of a game, there's a problem.
Agreed, Luis. What do you got, man? I know you were trying to say something.
I think that the world has gotten like smaller, in a sense. And when I say that is, we used to have like the NBA as the all-star ensemble of the best basketball players or in the world. But nowadays we have a really strong league in Europe, right? We have another league on the Asia continent, big basketball there. So in a sense, you have these teams that now they don't last like 2 years even. If you don't win a ring and you have an ensemble all-star cast and you don't win a ring in 2 years or 2 seasons, that's it. You're done. We're gonna rebrand the team. We're gonna mix and match some other players, and we're gonna do this and that. And I think that the world itself is gonna smaller because we've seen players from all around the world coming into the NBA, and that's great. You know, I'm all in with diversity and inclusion. But the thing is that since we have players that come from other leagues that are not paid as much as the NBA does, that breaks the league in itself because you have strong talents that come for less money, and then you have this team that was maybe in the last spot last season. Now they're in the second, third place now, and now you have to like rework your team just to get to that level again. And it's just like I mean, I think that GMs and coaches, all that are the stars now because they have to carry the franchise on their shoulders. But players are not as important. I think I could be wrong in this, but as a casual observer, I don't see players aside from LeBron, Westbrook, the usuals, right? I don't see them being as big as before or having people attached to them as before because people are not loyal. You could be here tomorrow, you're gonna be in another team, the next year, so it doesn't matter. I might follow you, I might not. So I think that itself has made the league not be as exciting, at least not in my terms.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. I agree a little bit. Also, the playing thing, we gotta talk about that someday. The playing thing that
Oh,
they
the
added
playing
to the
tournament.
season. Yeah, we gotta talk about that at some point.
All right, we'll definitely bring that one back then. Uh, Manuel is drinking his water because he's gonna talk to us next about Donda.
I'm gonna bore everybody talking about stuff that they're not talking about.
What's that?
We're gonna bore the people here and then talking about stuff that they're not talking about.
They are like it's going off on Twitter though. It blew up.
Yeah, definitely.
You
All right, so you
you
want me to
listen
talk
to
about
it?
it? All
Yeah,
right,
no, yeah,
yeah.
I didn't listen to it.
Yeah, so I want to give you. I don't want to talk about it too much, right?
Yeah,
But
no.
two perspectives. First of all, I don't like it. I don't like the album. I've listened to it 3 times. I do not like that album. I want to give it two perspectives, right? One is a Christian perspective and one is a music lover perspective. From a Christian perspective, I am so confused with this album. Is this album Christian or is it not? There's no way to tell because most of the songs talk about God. One song is called Jesus Lord. But then the Lox is singing in that song and some other guys and they're cursing and they're talking about the street. And I'm confused. And then, all of them curse in a lot of the songs, even though they have Christian titles and they're talking about God. But then it's edited. Like the version that's out on Spotify is censored. So you have an album that is explicit and it's censored, and I'm confused. So as a Christian, I am very confused on that album. Very disappointed with Kanye. I thought he was gonna double down on he's Christian, Jesus is king. I thought he was gonna double down on that. He did not. This album is kind of mixed. Like I'm back to Kanye, but I'm still Christian. I don't like that. Now on a musical level, am I old? Is it because I'm old? And do I not get what people like these days? Because that album is terrible. Like I don't know what people see. I hear people talk about Kanye's back. He's everything he learned from the 80s album and the Jesus is King album, he put it on this album. I'm like, really? Like are we listening to the same album? Half of the album you don't even know that this is a Kanye album. Because half of the album he barely even sings or raps on the song. It's just other people. Some of the songs are just repeating the same thing over. Like one of the songs, no lie, this guy comes out. The song begins with this other guy that I've never heard of. He sings like 8 bars, and then we have Kanye repeating, "He's done miracles on me," and the song ends with just him repeating it over. He's done miracles on me. He's done, like a lot of the songs is just him repeating the same bars over and over. A lot of the songs seem unfinished. The rapping is offbeat. Everybody's using auto-tune. Like I just don't get it. This is a bad album in any way you look at it. I don't know how people I don't know. People idolize or whatever. I idolize this guy. This guy like Kanye West, and I understand what he was back. I understand I think up until the 80s and Heartbreaks, I think it was. I think up until that point, some people would say later, you could say Kanye was like a genius level musician, like artist. You could say he broke the mold, right? And he was doing things that nobody else was doing, especially live. Like his live performances are different. And from that point on, then he started delving into like satanic stuff, which was very weird. And then he became a Christian, and now we don't know what's going. Like it's so weird. And musically, he's just it's not it anymore. Like he's not it. He needs somebody. He needs somebody next to him that says, "Hey, like let's tone this down. Let's polish this." Right? He doesn't have anybody apparently around him that says, "Let's polish this." This is just I don't know. I could keep talking. This is obviously a rant, but I hate it. I hate this album. I just hate it.
So
Rubykat?
allegedly, that album got leaked, and what you heard is not the final version. So I don't know if some of the inconsistencies you are sharing are due to that or what.
No, this version of the album is the official version. This is
Okay.
released by him. Yeah. Before that, he had done three. I don't know what they're called. Like he did like concerts, like showing the songs on the album live.
Like listening parties.
Yeah, listening parties, and they were unfinished. He did three of them, and the songs changed because he was still editing the album. Who does that? Like that's another thing, right? Like anyway, that's another rant. But no, but this version that we got on Spotify is supposed to be the finished version. Like that's the official version.
Do you
And-
think that maybe because he is right now not, we could say not in a steady mindset, because he's having his divorce, but he's back together with his wife. I don't know what's going on there, and I don't follow the Kardashians.
Hollywood
Maybe, like,
madness. Manuel might
Maybe-
know. Manuel
maybe-
tell.
Yeah,
Manuel
I do know,
Kardashian.
I do know. I'm up to date. Don't worry. I keep up with the Kardashians.
but maybe this album is a reflection of some sorts of his mentality like right now, and maybe that's why it doesn't work, because maybe it's not working for him.
We were just talking
Yeah,
about this
that's-
about
that's
Bob
it.
Ross, right? How your art reflects what your life
Yeah.
experiences are at the moment.
Yeah, I do agree that there might be some of that in there. It's weird because when I heard when he was running for president, he did the Joe Rogan podcast, right? And I recommend everybody to listen to that Joe Rogan podcast with Kanye West. It's crazy, but it's also very insightful. And the way Kanye expressed himself in that podcast, he says, "Yeah, I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and I got medicated and all this stuff." But he seems to genuinely believe that they did this to silence him because he started to talking about things that people don't want him to talk about. And the way he expressed himself in that podcast, I was like, wow, this is crazy, and it kind of makes sense. But then you see how he actually acts on Twitter and on this album, and you're like, no, dude, you got problems, and you do need help. Like, clearly you're not all there. Like, talking about Kim, there's like at least 2 songs on this album, at least, that clearly he's talking to Kim. And you can see both sides. One of the songs, he's talking about her, like, basically in a bad way, like, this is over, this is not gonna, all this stuff. And then we have another song basically saying that she's still in love with him and stuff like it's just, you can see the bipolar disorder just in those 2 songs. So there might be some truth in that, Luis. I think this might reflect his mental state at this point in time, because I gotta admit, like, there's hints of genius on this album. Like, you can see hints here and there, like, wow, this is awesome, this is a good idea, this is a nice beat. But clearly, there's unpolished, is unfinished. Like it's just a mess. It's a complete mess.
Well, I heard that the praise is because it's not only like what you're saying, but like he's sharing like his life ever since he became so public and so crazy, like from the elections all the way to everything that's happened. And that's why people are praising it, because he's putting all of their like raw and unfiltered and all over the place, and people think that that's like awesome. But
Yeah, I think people are reading into things because if you read the lyrics don't seem to be talking about much personal stuff. But if you're, like I said, like with the Bob Ross thing, right? It might be true. Like when you know what he's going through and then you listen to the lyrics, you're like, he must be talking about this. And so I think that's what's going on right now. People are hearing the album and like, yeah, this is what he means. Like they're interpreting. And hey, that's art, right? That might be why people like it. Like that's what art is, and it just might not have spoken to me, you know.
Sure.
Subjective, yeah, for sure. That I think that's what's happening. You know, it's what's art, where it's genius for some of them. Some of us might not be for the rest of us, but yeah.
Yeah. And just in case there's any confusion, because I'm sure a lot of people don't know, like, because for example, Big Ooze doesn't know what Donda is. I'm sure Luis doesn't know what Donda is. Donda is the name of his mom. So this album is dedicated to his mom. His mom died a few years ago from a operation and whatnot. And she was Christian, and he's basically living for her now. That's what he's saying. So this album is supposed to be that, which makes it even more confusing, right? Because some of the songs like that he talks about is like, is this something that Donda would be proud of? Like, I can't speak to that, right? That'd be pretty disrespectful for me to speak on that. But it seems weird. It seems weird. But anyway, I'm curious to see at the end of the day what Kanye's legacy is going to be, because if he keeps going down this route, I think his legacy might be tarnished a little bit.
All right, so we're gonna move on from Donda then. Real quick,
And
we're
notice
gonna.
I threw notice I used the genius word referring to Kanye as well.
There you go. But yeah, we've known about this one though, right? Let's see. Luis, you ended up watching Free Guy this week.
I did.
You know, I talked a little bit about it. Manuel Rubykat hadn't watched it yet, so we're still doing the no spoilers. But you do remember the kind of stuff that you say. So real quick, agree, disagree, got a hot take,
I
old
agree
cold takes
with
today.
most. Yeah, I agree with most of your takes on it. Um, the only thing and maybe it might be me because I'm not the guy that plays GTA no more, right? And there's a lot of reference to GTA here, like a lot, you know. But I didn't catch as much from that, at least not in the first 2/3 of the movie. Um, you know, in the last third of the movie, there were like more general pop culture references, if you might say, and those are really easy to catch on. But yeah, it's mostly Fortnite, GTA. There's a little bit of, I don't know, Assassin's Creed, if you will, but it's mostly like open world sandbox games of late that are reflected in Free Guy. Also, there's a lot of Sims. If you like Sims, there's a lot of that there too. So that's fun. Um, this movie is really fun and fun in a surprising way. I did not think that this movie would be that much fun. I think that this might be, you know, aside from Deadpool 1, might be my favorite performance of Ryan Reynolds so far, just because he seemed more mature here. You know, not only does he deliver in the voice acting and the voice modeling, you know, he's really great at that. But the physicality he brings to Guy, it's on par with Deadpool. You know, when you see this guy just walking around, you're like, man, he is a video game character. You know, he's a full fledged and, you know, video game character right there. I was gonna say a spoiler, but yeah,
No, don't do it.
so, so yeah, really fun. All the performances are really good. I think this movie might be, you know, at least for younger audiences, might be a cult classic at the end, because it seemed like what they were trying to do with Ready Player One, but in a more relatable way, you could say, right? With more heart. Because Ready Player One, yeah, there were like cameos all over, and there was like really um, great storytelling there, but it lacked heart a little bit, right? But here, you have all that, and you have streamers like today's streamers, and you know, youngsters. I saw the movie like last Friday, I think, and you know, there were people around, and they were like, "Oh, look, it's Pokemon," or "Oh, look, this Ninja." So I don't follow the streamers, like not a lot, but you know, people do. So they're like, "Oh, yeah, this and that." So people they were like in trance with it, right? So it's really fun just to see that. Yeah, and if we could go deep into spoilers, man,
Right? There's a lot to say about
Coco
it.
scenes. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
man.
see, I told you.
Yeah.
Definitely
But yeah,
recommend.
really fun. Definitely recommend it. I think that this proves my point that Ryan Reynolds is right now the best actor that delivers physical comedy in the way that Jim Carrey used to do. You know, he's now carrying that mantle, and man, he's doing great. He's just doing great.
And the Q, does Manuel disagree?
Manuel didn't watch.
I'm gonna give him
He
that. I'm
can't
gonna
say.
give him that one. I'm gonna give him that one for now, because who else is there? It's like there's no other physical
Ah.
comedian right now. So
I think, like I said before, I think just the movie, the fact that he's a video game character, just plays to his strengths and that
you
kind of
can't
stuff.
read me, Rubykat. You can't predict. I'm unpredictable. I'm not predictable. All right. I don't disagree all the time.
You don't know when he's gonna say that he disagrees. You
Trying to
know?
put me in a box here. I'm not in that box.
All right. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and move on to what if the episode of this week. Rubykat, why don't you get started with this one?
So that was the third episode, if I'm not mistaken. So I gotta say, is this without spoilers?
We can go into spoilers. I'm gonna put the spoiler tag. Hold on. We can go into spoilers with it. Sure. There we go. You're good.
Okay, I'm good. Perfect. So, I mean, the very beginning of the episode, I actually laughed a lot because I wasn't expecting for the whole twist with like Tony Stark dying from like the needle. I thought it was like, wow, that's how it starts. That's so ridiculous, right? But like, to be honest, the episode didn't manage to capture me as much as the previous one. It was okay. I was glad to see like the Avengers, and you know there was some funny moments here and there with like Thor's hair and whatnot. But speaking of Thor, can he actually be killed by just some arrow or stab in the heart or anything?
That was my reaction.
I thought
I'm
the
not
same
sure.
thing.
Luis would have to tell us because he's the
Okay.
one that knows for sure.
I think that Luis is gonna have to carry a lot of on this because I think. Well, I don't know about maybe Manuel, but I know Luis is a lot into the source material. He was talking in the chat
Yeah,
about.
I was looking up because I have this. This is a graphic novel, and this is a prelude to the Avengers movie, right? The first Avengers movie, and this is called Furious Big Week. I don't know if you guys can see it there. So basically, it's it's more of a in-depth way of knowing like certain gaps between Iron Man 1, Cap 1, Thor 1, The Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man 2, if I'm not mistaken. So there's scenes from all that, and that all happens in just a week. Because by the end of the week, the Avengers all ensemble, right? So we have that, and it's really cool because it's one of those comics where you go like, man, could there be so much that we don't know? And yes, there is. You know, just the fact that Natasha Romanoff was, looking for Banner in, while the Incredible Hulk events were unfolding, that itself is really cool. So I did not think that they would go this route, especially because this is a graphic novel, and they're trying to like, even though the episodes we have seen right now are mostly based on comics, they go just in like key issues or all that, but they don't go as to translate or try to reinvent like a full arc, right? Or a graphic novel. So I'm really happy they went with it. I think that this is by far my favorite episode, even though I love Chadwick Boseman's portrayal in the second episode, and that's really special. I think that this itself, I, maybe I'm mistaken. I think I could be wrong here, because people are not gonna be as entranced with it. But I think that since we're going with a graphic novel and we have that, like that source material, that led itself just to be more profound in storytelling and in other ways of branching out. There's not a point here where you go like, this is the first thing that you know this person did, or whatever. This is not a point click or a branch out scenario or universe. This is a complete new retelling of something that did happen in the main MCU, but we didn't know much about, right? At least if you didn't read this. So that's really fun. The fact that we have Hank Pym just going berserk on the Avengers, and he is one of the strongest Avengers, and he could be the strongest if you plant the seeds right, because he's a genius too, on Tony Stark level, but he's also really fast and strong and all that. So I don't know. For me, this is the route that I wished all the episodes would go, but I don't think this will end up happening. So I'm sad in that sense. But yeah, I wish this were the premise, like
I,
always.
I just have a few thoughts, and then we close with Manuel.
I don't
I
think Rubycat's finished either. I
I
think
was
she's
gonna say,
speaking.
are we back
oh
to my review or not?
oh this, all right, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, because I'm a little opposite from Luis. Like, the episode was fine. It's just it didn't manage to capture my feelings of it. Like, I didn't care for the characters. Like, they just got killed randomly, and I guess that's part of the premise, the mystery, how the big Avengers, are getting killed. And yeah, it was a little. It was smart that the villain turned out to be the villain, because yeah, he can like go to the quantum space place and do whatever he wants. Like, you have access to that, you can do so much damage. But like the motivations, they didn't capture any essence for me. So it's like whatever with the episode. I guess like I got very attached to second episode, and maybe that's why I'm a little biased, but it didn't have the effect that it had on you. That's just my point.
Yeah, I wanna see if Luis can answer the question though that we had when you came back, Luis. Rubykat was asking if Thor can be killed with that, just with the arrow, basically, right? That's how he was killed. If Thor can actually be killed with that ease.
I think that while he was in that state, that he was like the unworthy Thor,
Just
and he
strip of his
was
powers.
yeah, he was basically barren to Earth, to live a mortal life. I think he can be killed. Um, Funny thing about Thor, there is a comic. I think the best comic that does this of him just being expulsed from Asgard, where Thor, it, he he himself is not banished from Asgard. His essence is, right, his soul is. So he ends up in a med student who is in a coma. He's been in a coma for I think like 12 years or so, because he had a I think it was an accident. It wasn't as heavy, but he had brain damage, so he stayed up in a coma. And what's really cool about that comic is that they try to make that character be worthy of Thor's power. And when that happens, Thor is imbued, in essence, and he detaches himself from that guy. So I thought that was gonna be the route in the first Thor movie. That did not happen, but I think that since he's immortal, just before he picks up the Mjolnir, in the third act of the first Thor movie, yeah, he could be killed, definitely.
All right. So, my opinion of it, I think, first off, I want to say, I thought that there was going to be some continuity between them. I guess that was just dumb of me to think that. But as soon as, well, in the end, where Fury goes and de-ices the shield, and I'm like, okay, so this is where that's going, no Captain Carter. So, because I thought, it was going to be a thing where eventually it was going to show us a different Avengers for what the first Avengers movie was, or something like that. That might still happen, but there's not, like, maybe not all episodes are have that continuity, which kind of throws me off because I was thinking in that way that maybe one thing was going to lead to another, but it's just not every single episode might count specifically for that, or they might do it in a different way that I don't know. They're known to do that kind of thing. But I enjoyed the episode fine, but I do have to say, thinking back at it now, I watched it on Wednesday, and while I was thinking about it now that we're talking about it, I find myself forgetting a lot of it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen. So I enjoyed it fine, but it was kind of forgettable in that way for me, I think. Manuel, how about you? How do you like this one?
A brief question: have any of the characters? I think only Nick Fury, right? Have any of the characters from any of the episodes appeared in any other episode? Right? We haven't had any type of crossover right now, right? Except for Nick
No.
Fury.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason why I asked that is because theoretically, and we didn't have Captain America in this episode either,
No.
right? So theoretically, these things could be happening in the multiverse like simultaneously because we're not seeing characters yet. So you could still connect these in some way if they wanted to, right? I don't think they will,
No.
but they could. Anyway, right now I think I would put number 2, number 3, and number 1 as my order of like. This episode is better than the first episode. I don't like it as much as the second episode. I found myself struggling with two things. This is the first episode that I struggled. I asked myself constantly throughout the episode, what's the point of the episode? And I had to remind myself, yeah, the point of the episode is to see what if this stuff happened, right? I had to remind myself that's the point, right? What if this happened? But for some reason, I just couldn't wrap my head. I was like, what is the point of this episode? I couldn't understand what the point of this was other than that. And the other thing that I struggled with was believing or accepting that this guy, what's his name? The villain, say it again?
Hank Pym.
Hank Pym.
Yeah, Hank Pym. That's what's his name
Yeah.
is. So I found it very, very difficult to believe that Hank Pym could turn into an assassin that way, just because his daughter or whatever died for Shield. Like I found it very unbelievable. I couldn't believe that guy as the villain, and so I struggled with those two aspects. I struggled a little bit at the beginning with. This is just a problem with all episodes, right? The dialogue, but for some reason I noticed it more in this episode when they talk. It just doesn't line up with the lips because of the animation and whatnot.
Yeah,
Like
the animation.
that's a little problem. But at the end of the day, I was enjoying moment to moment. I did enjoy Black Widow's quest, right, to find the truth or whatever. I enjoyed that aspect. I liked the Hulk scene. That Hulk scene is my favorite Hulk scene from all of the movies. So it was cool to see it again. And that was my first Blu-ray movie. So yeah, I love that scene.
Yeah.
And I did like the reveal in the moment at the end. Like, I like the way they did it, even though I couldn't believe that he was an assassin, right? But having accepted that he's an assassin, I like that final scene, that final confrontation and how they did it. So I would say it was a good episode. I'm with you, Ace. I kind of forget, like, details, even though I saw it just a few days ago. So I would say, again, number 2 for me, and number 3, and then number 1. That's my view on it.
I think another thing that I agree with Rubykat is that she wasn't feeling everything with the characters. It wasn't clicking like that. I think it is because we had to get all of this all of it, everything, every single character crammed up in this episode, right? So I think that it suffered a little bit because of that.
And I think that, knowing the source material, I think that if I were to, like, point out a flaw, I think in this episode or retelling of Fury's Big Week is that Fury itself, it's not the center of this episode. Hank Pym is. And since that's the focus of the episode, the reveal at the end makes a lot of sense. But while you're watching it, you're not as I don't know, you don't feel as connected as if you were with Captain Carter or Chadwick's Boseman on the Star-Lord, right? T'Challa Star-Lord. Because here, the main character is actually the villain that is not shown till the end. Because Fury takes a back seat. So I would say that, if I could point out a flaw here, it would be that. I think that something that, at least for me, but I'm a nerd, not objective here, but I think that this episode delivered at least by me because it has the most comic book things that you have right now. Um, the first episode, yeah, we have a retelling of what if, Peg Carter would end up with the shield. But all she does is the same things that Cap does. Only she's a female, right? Um, T'Challa, being Star Lord, he's smarter than Chris Pratt's, Peter Quill's Star Lord, but he does the same thing. He's not different, radically different. But here, Hank Pym, he does all sorts of stuff, right? He's really smart, but he's also strong-willed, and I don't know, his vengeance drive, yeah, it's a little bit out of character, but then again, he has his feud with Shield because Shield and the government wants to use the pink formula for the super soldiers army that they want to make. So maybe that's where things got rough, and then Hope decides to join the enemies, dies there, and he's like, okay, I needed like few reasons just to tackle Shield. That's it. I'm berserk now. So I think having Loki just multiplying himself, just doing whatever at the end, having him open the frost box or whatever, I forgot the name. All that it's really fun, and it's like, man, this is a comic book finally, and
And
that was really fun
what was the point of killing all the superheroes again? What was his
because
plan?
he wanted Fury
Why didn't he kill Nick Fury?
because he wanted Nick Fury to suffer, basically. Because
See, that's
It's not
I
like
don't
he
buy
went
that,
for
see?
his family or anything like that. I think
Yeah,
that
like
in
Nick
that way,
Fury
I thought the same
doesn't
thing. Yeah.
suffer for these people, especially when he just met. Nobody knows who Thor is, right?
True.
So why did he kill Thor? No, I mean, he doesn't know who Thor is or who he's gonna become, right? The only character that we know of basically is Iron Man, because not even not even the Hulk was known yet in worldwide, right? And he wasn't part of the Avengers yet. So to me, it still doesn't quite make sense, right? It doesn't his motivation doesn't quite make sense to me. And also, I just remembered that I had a problem with this while I was watching the episode. Like these people just died, and Black Widow is out here investigating why these people have died, why these people are being killed. There's this big conflict going on, and Nick Fury sends her out to do this, and she calls you on the phone and you don't pick up. Like, come on, guy. You can't pick up the call that's so important as that. You got to leave it a voicemail. Get out of my face with that. And then when you hear the voicemail, that I couldn't. That's something that's my issue. But if you listen to the way she left the voicemail in that scene, and then you listen to the recording in the next scene, is not the same voice. They re-recorded the way she said it, and that just I hate that in movies and stuff and TVs. Like, I just couldn't believe that scene because of that. Yeah.
Manuel, you would be great at cinema sins and TV sins and all that kind of stuff for sure. Just
Well,
finding these kind of things, little
the one
detail.
thing that made sense was Loki coming to avenge Thor and wanting to rule Earth. I said it. That was consistent.
Yeah, I did enjoy that part at the end just because it's okay. So we didn't go all the way out of character for him. He just ended up doing the thing that he was meant to do. There's nobody to stop him now, so that makes sense at least.
And still,
Yeah.
we don't you guys have the question yet with me? Like, are you guys not asking yourself where is the TVA in all of these stories? Like, I can't get past that. I still can't get past that because there
I
are
would
theories. We can speculate all we want, but right now, right now the TVA is supposed to exist.
I think
So
we can
why
have
are they not
a
doing
whole
anything?
TVA podcast. I think we can do. They're
Yeah.
just speculating on everything that might come out of that.
without delving like deep into the TVA, at least this is the way I look at it. I think the TVA is not that it's broken. It's not that they don't have the resources. Since Sylvie is now running the thing in the main timeline, she just ordered them to stop. They they are not gonna work no more. They are gonna let this happen, and yeah, you could say that. Yeah, but there are other TVAs in other timelines. We don't know what Kang or the one who remains or whatever, wants the TVA to do there. So
You
I don't know.
just blew my mind, Luis, right now. I never, you're gonna say, like, I have never thought about that. That there are other TVAs in other timelines.
Yeah.
So who is this TVA that controls all of the timelines? That just blew my mind. I've never even thought about that.
I thought they were like in the same
Because I
boat
know they're
as
like
like the
outside of
Blaze. I
time or
thought they were
whatever,
outside.
but
So what I thought about was, did they get reset? Is that what happened when the Hero Rain got killed? Because
I don't know,
that
man.
might be
Because
something.
you could say that, but the thing is that when Loki, going full spoiler mode here for Loki, it's been a while, so if you haven't watched it, it's your fault. It's not, but but by the end of Loki's season, the first season, um, we see Loki going back to the TVA to the office, right? But Mobius doesn't recognize this thing, so you can say, oh yeah, there's trouble there because butterfly effect. You move this, you know, things happen or whatever. But the thing that struck me was that we had like a statue of the one who remains, or I think who is Kang, right? And it's not the three lords or the overlords or whatever. It's just him. So in my mind, what I thought is that by Sylvie just killing him, Kang, the true Kang, right, the true Billing, just took over, and he ended up taking her off, right? So now the TVA or the main TVA is not under Sylvie's dominance, it's under Kang's dominance. So maybe Kang doesn't want them to intervene with the branches. He just wants to eliminate the branches that would pose a threat to him, because he's benefiting from chaos right now. He's ruling because of chaos. So maybe he's just like handpicking which branches he wants to deliver, and maybe that's why we don't see the TVA as open or as willing to pursue every timeline or every branch out there, just because Khan doesn't allow it. He wants chaos to ruin. He's benefiting from it. And also, I don't know if if I could be wrong in this, but I think that there might be a TVA that rules all over TVAs, right? Because if you think about multiple branches, there has to be at least one person could be that goes like, okay, so there are multiple TVAs. What can I do to make mine like the biggest TVA of all? I have to distinguish myself from them. So maybe he has that we don't know.
yeah, I think it makes more sense now that I think about it. It makes more sense for the TVA to simply be something outside of time, and therefore there's only one TVA. There's not a multiple. But I know Rubykat was going to say something a while ago.
I'm just here thinking that I don't think there could be multiple TBAs, because TBA sits outside of the time, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure that Sylvie ever took over the TVA, because I don't think her intention was to rule. She just wanted freedom. Plus, she's still in that space beyond the end and time and all that. So she's not reset or anything. She's probably just there, and we just have to follow where she goes afterwards. That's just what I think. I know we're just theorizing here.
So going back then, because okay, I know that we've all put out this theory that this may be the what if it's even connected to the multiverse or whatever, that it takes place then after the TVA is broken or reset or all this stuff. That's why then this stuff is happening. But these things that are happening in what if are in the past. So how does that happen? It doesn't like if we're in the present and at that point the TVA gets reset or broken or whatever, that doesn't create new timelines in the past. It just means that whatever timeline occurs from that point forward, they're not going to get erased. So I don't think that I don't know if that fully explains the what if thing. I think it's just we have
We're
to
just
accept
gonna
that
have
it
to
doesn't make
see where it
sense.
ends up going.
True.
Really, I think that's what's gonna.
I think so. I think it's just like, oh, let's just enjoy it for what it is. I don't think we're supposed to think about it that way.
I do
No.
think that they're.
Even though
then the Manuel's camera is gone. I think that
That's the TVA turning me, trying to reset me.
pruning him. I think that there is something of a callback maybe in terms of what ties in or how may tie in. When the timeline started branching out on the TVA monitors or whatnot, I think some of those places and times are some of the things that we're seeing now in What if I'm not mistaken.
True. Also, the ancient one spoke something regarding this, that she said that the time, the flow of time, as she called it, it's not like like a perfect circle. It's more of a controlled scenario, like a controlled river, right? If you were to throw a pebble in the river, it would create ripples. So it would create ripples that affect the future, the present, and maybe the past, because water is just like that. Maybe what we're seeing now is all that the TVA was controlling, because you have to, like, when you think about time, and this is the problematic thing about time, because there's nothing perfect, but when you think about time, if you were to have your conscious self and go back in time, you could say, yeah, I would do this and this and that. You can't do that now because you're in the present, right? But if you could, you would go back to in time and create a whole new universe just by clicking B instead of C or whatever. So maybe you know humans in the Marvel universe are not NPCs of some sorts, right? They still have free will, and their will is well established in the way that these branches pop up. The TVA, what it was doing, it was just resetting every other scenario because they wanted you to follow this straight path. But even the people in the past, they don't know they're in the past. They're just out there living, just making choices, whatever. So maybe that's why we're just seeing these other branches, because TV is not there to set a linear path. It's now all hell's loose, right? So maybe that's at least the way that I see it. People are just free, and they're free in whatever timeline said. They're doing all sorts of stuff. Also, we have to accept that this is Marvel. Yeah, true.
All right, so with that remark, we're gonna move on from this one because we're gonna. This is gonna get into it. Like we're gonna have to have a Marvel episode, perhaps a time travel episode as well, for us to be able to freely talk about all this interest that we do have on those regards. But we're gonna go ahead and move on then to our video game section. And I'm gonna start real quick. I'm just gonna throw some stuff out there real quick. NBA 2K22, a lot of people that follow us and follow myself, follow me for the 2K content. I think we're about 10 days left for release. They finally showed some gameplay today. I want to be positive. I really do, and I know a lot of people out there do as well. I don't see a whole lot of difference between this one and the last one. However, the blog that they released on the technical side of things in the gameplay, uh, it seemed that they were doing a lot of changes on the right direction. The problem with that is we are gonna have to wait until we have our hands in the controller in the game to be able to see if that is accurately reflected or if they're just talking because that's what people have been asking for and they're just trying to appease them so that they pre-order or buy it or anything like that. That could also be the case. Game, I mean, in terms of the graphics, the game looks great, especially on next gen. Like, there's not a whole lot that we were asking about on that regard. But the gameplay, especially on defense, which is again what they said they would focus on, was lacking a little bit. So hopefully, we'll see. I'm gonna be, taking a trip to New Zealand on the 9th and checking it out. Put a stream and stuff like that. So we'll see and we'll talk about it. But I'm gonna buy it regardless because this is the only alternative that I have for a basketball game, unfortunately. But hopefully, I'm gonna try to be more positive about it this year. I will put it down if I need to, like a break. I don't want to burn down on it or anything like that. But hopefully the things that they said the right things. I need the execution now. That's all I'm gonna say about that one. What else we got? The Sins Bro Reboot. Uh, this is something that I don't know how many of y'all out there have played the Sins Bro game. I have played all of them. I have enjoyed them all to varying degrees. But this is a reboot, is what they are saying. A lot of people didn't like that. I think that people complain about the direction that they were going with it and in the later games. However, this seems a little bit more grounded and stuff like that, which seems to be what people were asking for. But yet they're complaining about it also because it's a reboot, and I think they wanted a continuation. If it's done well, if it keeps the essence of what Saints Row was, the wackiness is not. It's not really as much a GTA clone as it is trying to separate. But then don't go too goofy, too far into like space and stuff like that. Which again, this seems a little bit more grounded. Then I think this is the right approach. Again, I'm just trying to be more positive all around. So hopefully, but Manuel, you did have a question about whether this was a reboot or not.
Yeah, that, I didn't know that they made that statement, so that's why I was questioning it. Just based on the trailer and whatnot that I saw, like I didn't realize, okay, this is a reboot. To me, it's just a continuation of the series, right? They just change. I know that they're changing a little bit of the style with the previous games or whatever, but I didn't realize. Like, is there a main story throughout the series? Like, are there main characters throughout all of the Saints Row games? Because I didn't realize it was that in depth.
Yeah, it was
So
kind of
that's
like
why
that.
that's yeah.
But I think I think what happened was they backed themselves into a corner with the story, with the increasing the wackiness factor. The first one is purely a GTA clone, I would say. They were just trying that out. It took off because some people were, I guess, more receptive to have an alternative to GTA, or they just wanted, they like GTA, they wanted something like it to try out. So it took off. The second part was an improvement, and it started showing a little bit like it started to branch out and differentiate from what GTA is, a little less realistic and stuff like that. However, it still kept grounded for the most part. Then on the third one, they changed the art style, they changed everything, and I like the story. I like the wackiness of that one. That's one of the ones that I enjoy the most. But then the fourth one just went like off the rails completely, where it's the alien invasion and they're inside like a Matrix like thing and stuff like that. It just went like, and the ending of it had like the Earth was blown up at some point during the story, and like they're like, oh, there's time travel and this and that, and at that point that they backed themselves into a corner. So I think this is, if they wanted to regain what we enjoyed about the earlier Saints Row games, I think this is
But
the right
again,
approach.
are they the same characters throughout those four
They
games?
are for the first four games, and this one is completely different. It looks
Okay,
like.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
the first one, you just get basically drafted up the streets for the gang. You raise up the ranks. By the end, you become the leader. The second one, you lead. The second one, I think you get caught up in some nonsense. You get sent to jail. The gang disbands and whatnot. And so it's kind of a revenge story. You get back out the top. The third one is kind of weird, and that's where it started doing that. Uh, they became like cult icons, kind of like they had commercials of energy drinks. They robbed the bank, and people were like asking for autographs and stuff like that. And then the last one, like I said, it just the last one it starts, and then that's when you know that it's just going off the rails completely. It starts with a mission that you are doing, taking take this terrorist is gonna be a terrorist that it was the bad guy from the last game. He became a terrorist, and you stop it, and then the ending of that mission, he's running towards a nuke that he sent out to try to stop it. So he's climbing the nuke with I don't want to miss a thing playing, and then he disarms the nuke, and I guess in the end he falls like on the Oval Office like this, and he becomes the president after that. And then just all of this alien nonsense happens. So that's when you know, like, okay, we've gone too far at this point. But they were
Well,
enjoyable for what they were. We hope, I hope that they go back to their roots like that, and you create your character and stuff like that. So that's also nice. I enjoy character creation games. And then we're gonna take this section. What have we been playing? Is the next section. Manuel, you had a game that you wanted to talk to us about as well.
Yeah, but I feel like I've been talking for a little while. Maybe give somebody
I'm
else a
gonna.
chance first.
Okay, so then you and Luis, because Rubykat has a special thing going, so we're gonna leave her for last because we're gonna jump from this to the next thing for with her. So Luis,
Um, I played like probably 2 3 hours of Psychonauts 2. It's a really good game. Um, I think that this might be my favorite platformer of the year. We haven't had, much of those lately, but it's definitely better than Ratchet and Clank. And I did not think that this would be the case, just because graphics wise it looks really dated, but man, they have something special here going on. So basically, Psychonauts, I don't want to like go like deep because maybe you guys, I, I highly recommend this game. This must, like, must. Especially if you own an Xbox and you have Game Pass, why not? Um, Psychonauts, it's this organization that, they basically have like 5 or 6 doctors that are specialized in different branches of psychology, right? So they formed this organization, like if we would say the MIB, Men in Black, but with psychology and telepathy, all that, right? The mind itself, right? Being the foundation. So yeah, you have that, and you have the main character, which is Rat Putin. He's a kid. He's like maybe 10, 12 years old. Is very little. But he has the ability, as do other psychonauts have, that you could go inside a person's mind. So you have the inception aspect of Christopher Nolan, just going deep into dreams and other people consciousness, all that. But you have the wackiness of Looney Tunes in there, and the platforming backs up the Looney Tunes aspect. So you end up with a fantastic game about mentality and you know mental health. You have depression there. You have it's just beautiful. There's like I don't know if all of the like the mental conditions are there, because I haven't played like the game fully, but let's say that you have sorrow, right? And the main character goes like, oh man, this is really hard. I wonder what he's feeling. And there's other person saying, oh, he's feeling sorrow, you have sorrow. And he's like, sorrow, yeah, you have sorrow. And there's a like a villain just popping up, and it's like one of those weak villains that he's like, oh, sorrow, and he's like, he's like really sorrow. It's just like weeping and all that. So you have to kill that's sorrow. And then you have, oh, but he has like a lot of anxiety, man. And there's anxiety, but in a physical form, and you have to kill that too. And it's really fun because when they're saying that, they're saying the way that you as a person should like fight this illness, right? Or this conditions. And it's really beautiful because for a person that enjoys psychology, I wanted to study psychology, but I was instructed not to. But I wanted that to be my major. I enjoy this game a lot. It goes really deep into trauma and all that, but in a physical manner and in a childish manner that it's never like controversial, neither punishing for the person that's just playing it. So it's really fun. I highly recommend it. You don't have to play the first Psychonauts game, even though I've been told that it's a really good game, but I have not played it. I have a friend who did, and he said that he had a great time. But the game sums up basically what happens in the few minutes, and then you're off to a great adventure. So yeah, definitely must try. Yeah, go with that.
Sounds
Cool.
good. Okay, Manuel, what have you been
Yeah.
playing?
So I did that. I downloaded Psychonauts, but since I was out, I was gonna play today, but since I was out of the house all day, I wasn't able to play. You know what I realized this past week, that I had been missing from video games.
What's it?
I realized just yesterday that it's been a while since I've had simple fun playing video games. And that's weird because when I start thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, I'm playing Returnal, which is an awesome game and it has all this stuff, but the tone of the game is dark and it's all of it. I'm invested in the story and all of this stuff. So that's not like just fun. Like you're not. I don't put on Returnal just to have fun, right? I put it on because I want to beat it and it's challenging, etc. Metal Gear Solid 5, that's just I just love Kojima. I love Metal Gear games. Plus, I wanted to do the platinum, and it's not that the platinum is not fun, but I never once turned on Metal Gear Solid and said, I'm just gonna have fun. Like it's not that. And this week I've played two video games, both of them for the first time, and I'm just outright having fun. And the first game, which I'm not finished yet. I'm in the last chapter, I think, is Gears 5. So I downloaded it on the Game Pass, and it's just mindless fun. Like I am invested in the story. Like I am interested in the story, and I'm impressed by the graphics and all that stuff. But I just put on that game. I put my earphones on. Let's just kill some monsters. Let's just have some fun here running around. And I haven't had that fun for a while. And so I highly recommend. Gears 5 is awesome. Like I think I would put this. I think I played them all. So right now I haven't finished it, but I put Gears 1 in second place, Gears 5. I think those are the two Gears in my opinion. So it just feels so good right now. Like I'm actually looking forward to finishing here and putting on Gears just to have fun for the night and then go to sleep, right? And then the other game that I've been playing, and I did finish it, is Death's Door. So I don't know if you got everybody has heard of Death's Door, but it is exclusive to Xbox. It is on Game Pass. Oh no, sorry, it's not on Game Pass. I actually bought it. But still, this game, as soon as I put it on, I was like, wow, this game is special. Right now, I was thinking what my list of top games this year so far. Maybe at the end of the year, we'll do like what are the best games that we played throughout the year or whatever. And I think my number one is Death's Door. I think so. I think out of all the games that I played, new and old, I think Death's Door is my favorite one. It's basically I don't even know how to describe it, but it's an action adventure game. It's kind of like Zelda. It's top down, but it's action based more than anything else. It has a little bit of exploration here and there. Has a little bit of puzzles, just enough to give you some variety in gameplay. But the emphasis is on the fighting and especially the boss fights. But the game is just fun to play. The music is incredible. It looks beautiful, and it has so many homages to Legend of Zelda series and to Mario and to other series like that. Like this is an homage to that game, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, even though it's about death and it's literally about taking souls or whatever and reaping them. And it is kind of melancholy here and there, but it's never serious. Like it never takes itself serious. Like when you reach the end of the game. And this is not a real spoiler because the game is called Death's Door, so obviously death is around there. You eventually meet death. And it's just, I laughed out loud when they showed death and he's talking, and then all of a sudden the text goes on screen real big, death. Like it's an introduction, like this is death. It is just so funny because the character is so stupid, and then they put this big text, like this is death. And that game is awesome, highly recommended. Like this is the best. I think it cost, let me see, I paid $7 because I had money in I think it costs like $20, and it's well worth the money. Like well worth the money. It's a shame this game isn't on PlayStation, because this is a game I would have liked to platinum. This is something that we might discuss another day. I don't understand the achievement system in Xbox. They need to change that. I don't like it. It doesn't motivate me to do everything in the game. But anyway, I was reminded this week that video game, it's good to just have fun playing video games.
Yeah, man.
And it's not about anything else. It's just I'm just turning these games on and putting my earphones, and I'm having fun, and then I go to sleep. So that's what I've been playing this week.
I had I had a similar, I think, experience to you in that regard because where we last checked in, I had my issues with the game Who Shall Not Be Named anymore, and so I was like put off gaming. I kept trying to like get back into it throughout the week, and I didn't feel like it, like playing anything at all. Uh, but I started playing. Well, I picked back up where I left off on Assassin's no, I'm sorry, not Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs Legion, and it's it's not something that everybody enjoyed, even fans of the series or Ubisoft as a whole. But for me, it's kind of like that, just mindless fun, where it
Yeah.
kind of it's the game I guess at this point that's brought me back a little bit when I'm just like annoyed by everything that's going on with gaming right now in terms of everything that we talked about. I'm not gonna get into it, but you just going around hacking, doing that kind of thing, just nonsense. The characters are wacky, like all sorts of stuff. I have regained a little bit of that, so I've had a good fun week. That's what I've been playing. So Ruby
Man,
Cat, you have. Oh,
having
sorry.
fun just before Rubykat goes, having fun, like mine does fun. That's what Doom Eternal does for me. That's why I recommended that for you guys, because that is just, I don't know, mayhem, just pure chaos, and that's cool. You need that in your libraries, because it's not about the narrative approach. It's not suspense. It's not puzzle solving. Sometimes you just want to, like a popcorn flick type of game where you just have fun.
That's what it used to be about for us, I think. And then as we
Yeah,
grow, we're looking like I said before. We're looking for those kind of story experiences, that kind of thing. But it used to be just about having fun, and
yeah,
it's great to see that we can still pick up something and it will bring back those feelings at least.
definitely.
All right, so Ruby Cat, you had a few games that you've been playing this week. There is one big one that we're gonna get. We're gonna jump from that to the next segment. But what else have you been playing?
I was playing Persona 5 Scrabble again after a while, and I think I'm almost done with it because the Phantom Thieves sent the infamous calling card. So I'm getting the bad guy. But it feels like it's way too soon, even though I know it's a short game, it's supposed to be like around 45 hours of playtime. I have to verify how long I've been, but my characters are only level 15. So it feels way too short to just be it. But knowing Persona 5, they always have like some twists upon twists, and that's not the main villain. And you go further into the story. I gotta admit in front of everybody that at some point there was a mission that really frustrated me, and I have to like lower the difficulty to easy because the game does something. You have SP, which is your magic, but you don't have like a magical ability to recover SP. The only way to recover SP through items or exiting the multiverse and entering again. And there's parts of the story where you cannot exit. You have to go from point A to point B all in a row, and it's like 10 or 15 battles, and they're all difficult, and you have to survive with the SP you have. But the thing is, you have to find SP items in your world, and they could be like in the coffee machines or like soda machines, and if it's that day, if it's being sold and whatever quantities they have. So if they have two or three
Mm,
only,
the random.
you have two or three only, and they only recover like 5 SP, so that doesn't do anything for you. So I
You
kept
playing
one
this on Switch or PS4?
Switch because I just wanted to have it, casually play. It came out for PS4 as well. I have
Okay.
the original on PS4, but yeah, I was really frustrated for the first time because this is one of those games that like I can't remember like the genre of it, but like you know how like there's a bunch of enemies coming at you and it's all AI and it's usually repetitive.
Like the
A
Hyrule
hacking, like
Warriors,
a hack and slash. Yeah, I reward
Yeah,
is like
like
that.
Hero Wars. Like it
the
has a
Horde.
similar
Yeah.
similar vibe, but not entirely because it's not like every area is like that, but sometimes it is. But it's
Okay.
kind of like Persona 5 version, and they did an amazing job in like switching from turn-based to like real time because they kept all the elements of it, and then they gave a push to like sneaking and ambushing enemies much efficiently and creative with like your environment. So it does work, but I gotta say the AI is tough. It's not like those other games where like the AI is running somewhere and not looking at you. They're all coming at you at the same time. I have like 15 of them doing lightning bolts, and Joker is like weak to lightning bolts. So here we go. He's like backwards, and now I have to make him. So yeah, I had lots of fun. I had lots of fun this week playing Persona 5, and I've done some hours here and there with like the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, but I still am kind of neutral on it. Maybe it's not my type of game, but I'm waiting for the story to get more interesting because everybody says it's awesome. So I'm gonna go for it.
How far are you into it right now?
I've only played like 3 hours, honestly. It's hard. It's
Oh,
been
yeah.
a little hard to get into it, but I'm giving it a chance because everybody recommends it. So.
Yeah, because remember the first one, even though it's kind of odd because you love RPGs, so it's kind of odd that for you it's been a little more difficult to get into. But for most people, the first one is the most difficult to get into because it's the more antiquated one, right? The second one was a little more updated, a little more action oriented. Plus, you carried over what you did in the first one. But I recommend if you try, like, I think Mass Effect is not a game you can play casually, right? Like you have to like get into it and
No.
really invest the time, because there are moments. I promise you, Rubykat, if you put the time into it, but there are moments in that game, in the first game, that you're gonna be wowed, because like it's like I don't know if I'm hyping it up too much, but but it is on that level.
No, I have friends that said the similar thing, so I trust the process. It's just that maybe, again, I've been trying to do the casual gaming here and there where I'm going to go because I've been doing other things, and I just need like 5 hours of sitting straight down and being like, I'm gonna do this like the old times. So.
Is the Persona 5? How would you rate the story compared to mainline Persona games, for example?
I'm gonna give it a 7. It's not bad story. It's actually a nice addition to it, and they give you a whole new perspective of something that can be done in that universe. So it's good because it gives you newness to it, and it makes you think harder of how like the metaverse and everything works. It's just never gonna be the Persona 5 original with the mega story. I mean, 30 to 45 hours worth of storyline versus 120 of intensity, going from like one boss to the next to the next to the next to the next. It's different from like, okay, we have this character, we know from the beginning that's the villain, and we need to like explore this to see how they're doing this because they're doing differently from what we know from the first game, which gives you the mystery, but ultimately it's just one villain, you know.
Yeah,
It's just
I
something to
don't.
keep you hooked up until I guess they come out with Persona 6 or something.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard that they had. I don't remember exact details, but they announced not too long ago they have like a 5-year plan for Persona. So they have like a bunch of announcements to make in the upcoming months. And one of those announcements is a mystery announcement, and then everybody thinks that it's going to be Persona 6. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I've heard that they're feeling the pressure because they think that they have to do better than Persona 5, and that's gonna be hard. But they said that they want to take the learnings from it, so let's see.
I ask you because this is something that kind of got to me from Mass Effect 2. Like Mass Effect, I just played it one time through and I ignored the missions that you can't do on the first run or whatever. That's just how it is. You have to play it. I think you have to play at least twice, right? Right, Ace, to get certain missions because you can't level up a certain amount in the first run or something like that.
I think in the first one, you were not able to go the whole entire way, so you have to have a new game plus in order to level
Yeah.
up. But I don't recall that some missions are locked out, uh,
Or at least some
according to that.
options in the missions, right? Like you
That's
can't choose certain things.
it's
Yeah.
possible that it has to do with the uh, Paragon and Renegade
Yeah.
options because you have to level those up a certain amount, and
Yeah.
in order to choose different dialogue and stuff like that. So that's probably what you're
Yeah. So
referring
so
to.
the reason I ask is because I know that Persona 5 also is a game that in theory you can do everything and put all the relationships in one run, but not even the creator, I don't remember what his name, he tried to do a playthrough recently or whatever a few months ago, and he couldn't do all of the relationships on his first run. And then
I
you made this game.
I don't think you can actually.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
one of the relationships that's super hard, and it requires you to master pretty much everything in the
Yeah.
skills and in your social skills, and that's like impossible on the first
Yeah.
run.
So that's why I was gonna ask you how you feel about that, because that's the only thing. I absolutely love Persona. I'm not a big JRPG guy. I loved Persona 5. I think that might be up there, one of my favorite games of all time. But that's the one thing that I can't deal with it, because if it tells you to take your time, but you know you can't really take your time. You have to pick and choose what it is you have to do, what relationship you're gonna build, etc. And I just wonder what you feel about that. Like, I don't know if it affects you as much as it affects me, but like I'm worried. The reason why I ask you is because I'm worried that Persona 6 is gonna be even bigger, and it's gonna give me that sense of anxiety that there's like I can't do everything that I want to do in one run, but I can't invest 2, 3, 400 hours in a game and playing it more than once. So I wonder how you feel about that.
So I didn't bother me from the original game. I thought it was realistic because in real life, when you have friends and relationships, you pick and choose who you want to spend time, and you can't spend time with everybody. So you have to make your choices wisely and where to invest. But the Persona 5 Scrabble kind of like got rid of like that. You still have the calendar system, but you're not anymore bound by what Morgana says when you have to go to sleep, when your day ends. No, you have as much time as possible. So they eliminated that constraint. The bonding process is a little bit different because it's more like who you're choosing now to put in your team for battles. You bond faster, but it's because the second installment is just meant to drive the story as quickly as possible, just as an add-on. It's not supposed to be main storyline. So I think they're skipping the relationship building because there's no need to build the relationships further because they're all friends from the first installment. But I think that's a criticism that they took because they got rid of it in this other installment. So there is a high possibility that they might change it on 6, but who knows?
At least change it a little bit. I don't know. It's just people like me. I get anxiety feeling like I'm missing out. And that happens to me in a lot of games. Like even Gears 5. Gears 5 does something that I don't think they've done in any other Gears, is that there are these sections where you can actually open the map and choose to explore where to go. And they've never done that before. Like there's these small sections that you can explore, side missions or whatever. And I always feel like I'm missing something. Like, did I explore this whole area? Did I do all the side stuff? Like, and I don't like that sensation. And I got that with Persona. Like, I always felt like, did I do everything I could have done in this day? Did I waste my time? Should I go to sleep earlier? And that gets to me.
Manuel it's mad because he didn't get to date everybody at the same time.
No, not really. That's interesting because I'm not that, like in games when that happens, I usually lock on to one of them. Like, this is my girl. Like, I don't want anybody else. I'm usually like that. And
Faithful even in video games. Manuel is a catch.
Yeah. I want to tell you guys something. You know who I wanted my girl to be in that game? The girl at the beginning that tries to commit suicide. That's the one that I wanted to romance, and you can't. That's not one of the characters. Like I wanted to romance. That was the one that I wanted to build a relationship with. But
I romanced the doctor. I like them older and punk.
I romanced the not chess player, but I forget the one that played the board game. That's the one I chose.
No, I chose as many as I could.
But even though I do think that Manon has a really solid point here, I think that that might affect him and me and some other people, that we tend to see games as, okay, I'm playing this game, I'm gonna clock on it, I'm gonna finish it, and then I'll move on to the next thing. But people that are fans of Persona, I could be wrong by saying this, but I think that people are fans of Persona and JRPGs usually stay with that game to just eat it as a whole. You have to do everything. You have to dedicate your whole life, if it were for it, because that's part of the purpose of being in this community. Having all sorts of tips and tricks, and the community says, no, you have to do this is the proper way, and all that. So in a way, it's like Pokemon, because you finish Pokemon, but you're still on it because you want to catch them up. But that's basically it, but in the JRPG form, right?
Pokemon. The trophies are interesting. Like, that's the one and only game I've gotten tempted to actually work for a platinum. I haven't finished it, but I'm like at a high percentage. But it's very difficult.
I didn't even look at the trophies. I'm like, I am not going through this again. I didn't even look. I don't even know what you have to do. But I assume you have to build.
Finishing the compendium of all the maps in Persona.
Yeah, no, get out of here. No, that's okay.
And the thing is that if you don't go as deep as as people demand you to go with this type of games, people are going to criticize you, and they're not going to buy your product, and you're going to be, set to shame, because Devil May Cry 5, I love that game. Did it need to be that extensive in the leveling up system? Maybe not, but since there are people that are going to go that deep, to get every attack of Dante, every combination, everything, then you need to, right? GTA, am I willing to go buy every I don't know, real estate available? No, maybe not. Maybe I ram through the story, but there are people that want to go here, and there's the stock portfolios sim or whatever. So there are people that go, like, I don't know, like really deep in these games, and this type of people are often the majority in the comments. They put off casual fans like us, and that's the thing here.
I heard somebody the other day because I'm watching a Metal Gear Solid 2 run, and I'm discovering a lot of stuff that I didn't know about that game. It's so like I have a higher appreciation for Metal Gear Solid 2 than I've ever had just watching this playthrough. Because there's a guy that's playing it for the first time, and then off camera we have this guy that's like an expert explaining, look at this and that, and that's awesome. Anyway, and today's the final. Actually, I might start watching it today. But one of the things that you have to do in that game is collect all of the dog tags in the game. And the way to do that is basically you hold people up and then you get in front of them, and that's how you take their dog tags. So you have to, the enemies, you have to hold them all up. And that's crazy, crazy difficult. And then there's some guy in the comments that said, he basically said, like, you're not a real Metal Gear Solid fan unless you got all of the dog tags in all of the difficulties. So play it on easy, play it on regular, play it on hard, and get all you. What kind of life do you have that you have the time to do that? That's just crazy. That's just crazy. I mean, the craziest thing I've ever done is the Death Stranding, and maybe now the Metal Gear Solid 5 Platinum. But even those games, you don't have to do everything to get the Platinum, right? You just have to do these specific trophies. I would never in my life do something like that. 3 difficulties and get all of the dog tags? Never in my life.
That was one of the reasons, if I'm not mistaken, where you said you weren't going for the Final Fantasy one, right? Because you had to replay it, basically.
Yeah, and basically it's more of like how I feel about it, right? Like for example, I contemplated doing the Death Store thing, the achievements, even though I don't really like and I don't care about the achievements on Xbox. But I felt like doing everything, and there's a secret ending that you get for doing a lot of things. And when I envisioned myself doing it, I was like, is this going to be fun, or is this something that I really want to do? No, I enjoyed my Death Door experience, and I'll leave it at that. And when it came to like Final Fantasy, I was like, okay, like am I going to enjoy getting all these weapons and doing all that? Like, is that something that I'm actually going to have fun doing, or is it just an achievement that I'm doing, right? And I felt more that it was an achievement than anything else, so I was like, nah, that's not for me. That's not for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I try not to be obsessed with platinums, and I gotta admit, it gets to me. Like every single game, I think about it, but I try really hard not to be obsessed with it because that's not healthy. Like some platinums are, what's the point, right? Investing so many hours in a trophy that nobody's gonna see, right? So I just do it in games that I have fun with, and that's it.
I remember like getting the ultimate weapon in Kingdom Hearts, the first one and the second one. I did not go, for the third one in the third game. That was really hard. But that was really hard back in the day, because you had to do that trial and error, all that, and also getting every S rank in triple S rank in Devil May Cry, all of them. I did that for DMC 1, 2, and 3. I wanted to do it, on 4, but it was really hard, and I hated Nero. And DMC 5 is really, really hard. So
never in my life. That's another one that when I played it, I was like, I am never gonna get an S rank on all of these missions. I am not doing that platinum. And no, I will not be doing the Red Dead platinum. I can't do that to myself, to my mental health.
It's just too long, man. All right, so Rubykat, there is one more game that you have that you've been playing this week, right? That you wanted to talk about.
Oh my god. Final Fantasy 15.
15?
15, yeah. So you know
Nice.
there's the original and there's like the royal version now, right?
Hmm.
So just so you know, the royal version obviously is the complete thing, all the game add-ons, all the DLCs, the main storyline, everything. I think you can buy it for like $35 or something now. But I'm one of those people that play the game originally when it first came out, right? And I'm gonna go on a run here because the game started pretty well. Like you're in your like it doesn't give you where you're located, but you know that you are like in your kingdom, you're being attacked for some reason, you're escaping, and like those are like the flashbacks that you get, and suddenly you're with your buddies feeling sorry and on the road, you know? And you're like, well,
Hmm.
that's one way to start the game, you know, like you're running away from something to safety, you know? And it's appealing to be with your bros on the road. At first, you're just driving a really fancy car around an open world, a true Final Fantasy open world with the amazing graphics, right? And then it hits you. It hits you that the world is super empty. It's like as gigantic, probably as GTA 5, with like nothing in it. And when I mean nothing in it, is that instead of having several, you have like a total maybe of 3 towns that you visit throughout the game, but the towns to me felt even like constrained in comparison to the size of the game and the size of the openness of the world. And so I think that some of those towns got replaced by gas stations. Like literally the gas station and the diner was supposed to be like your place to hang out and be happy about. And that really took away a lot from the game. But the worst part is not that it doesn't get bad. Like the worst part that I'm like furious at like the regular version, furious at the royal version, is the storyline. So I like RPGs for the storyline. That's all that drives me. The storyline was hard to comprehend. It was like there was plot holes everywhere. If there was a plot, because at some point I think they throw away the plot and then you just going somewhere else. You're supposed to like trying to explore this world to regain these powers in different places so you can like become the ultimate guy, like ascend as a king or whatever, and like you know recover your kingdom. And I feel like halfway of the game that plot got like cited and it all changed, and it's like they forgot about it. And so not only that, you're supposed to have a romantic interest as a character, and apparently, you and your romantic interest were very close as children, but as adults, you were separated because you're in opposing teams. Actually, you're kind of like enemies, but you're promised to each other, and you're just like sending notes to each other through doggies. Very magical, very beautiful. But like, not even the notes are as like profound to make you care for this connection. And if you receive like 2 notes through the entire game, that's a lot. And then once you finally meet with the girl, she dies, and you're like, okay, I don't care. Like, I really don't care. What
Quick
happened to
question.
you?
Um, I started Final Fantasy 15. I enjoyed like the first 10 hours or so because yeah, the bro thing that's really cool. Yeah, the game felt empty, but what took away from me, and I had to pause it because when I went into Final Fantasy 15, we did not have the royal version, at that time, right? So there were DLC coming up, and I remember that when I played it, the first chapter was free, if I'm not mistaken, and I played that within the main story because it was some sort of callback to one of the guys, right?
Yeah.
It was the backstory. Does Royal do that? Like in the main story, does it involve the DLC like in concise manner, like in proper manner? Because I stopped playing it because I thought of myself, even though I'm not a completionist, but since I was playing it late, I was like, okay, maybe I want to play this game when all the DLC comes in, because maybe they will incorporate that in the main timeline, and maybe I could get like better experience. Does that ever happen here?
No.
Oh no.
You just included all the content and that's it.
So
That's the
so there's no timing. You can access that content at any given
Well,
time,
it has
basically.
to be a part, and that takes away from the storytelling, like big
Okay.
time. And also, like you're exploring this, like there's parts of the game where one character is separated from the group. There's doing something else, and you never see what it is. So that's part of like the plot hole there. And then they come up with these character DLCs that are supposed to tell you what they were doing.
Okay.
And that's how they fill the blanks, because they said, oh, Square Enix was, we're committed to finishing the game, we're gonna give you these DLCs, and then they're like, oh, here, you have to pay for each one of them, and it's 6 DLCs so you can know
Wow.
what they're doing. And even then those DLCs felt like a band-aid at the end of the day. And I'm here like furious because I already pay the regular game. I refuse to pay for the DLCs, and then they do the Royal, which has everything included, and you can pay a cheap price just to go on with it. And I mean, it's not like Cyberpunk, like Ace has been ranting about. It's not unplayable. The gameplay is playable. So I guess you can't say anything about recovering your money. But storytelling wise, it's just the worst Final Fantasy out there. Like it
Mhm.
is. And the thing is gameplay. Like the battle system. All you have to do is be near an enemy, press a button, it gets taken care for you. At least like managing the main character. In terms of the AI, I thought like so many people will have maybe different opinions of the different character abilities, but usually Final Fantasies, each character has a specialty where they exceed that other characters don't have, at least at the beginning of the game, and maybe at the end of the game, you'll be able to kind of fill the blanks out and like have all the characters with everybody's like abilities. Sometimes they do that, sometimes they don't. Okay. But keeping in mind that I only felt that other than the main character, one other character was useful to me, which is Ignis. He was the sabotager, the healer, the fast pace, the
Yeah,
one
he did
who
everything. Yeah,
recipe. He did
that's true.
everything. And I'm wondering, what did the other characters do?
Yeah.
And then they tell you, well, no, like this other character, Pronto, he has like the best move of all them all, but it's in the DLC. You gotta buy the DLC to unlock that. And you're just like, what in the world? So not even like the battle system was like balanced. And then I'm gonna give this to them because it was a pretty good twist. So I'm relying on Ignis all the time to save my butt in all these like battles. And then there's a twist that in the game he suddenly goes blind. They don't explain you why he went blind. You're just supposed to take it. I'm like here, like so now I have the other the other two guys, and blind Ignis who can't fight, and then myself. And like, you know what? I'll give it to them because that was a painful one. That was a painful twist for me, just because I relied on that guy. Eventually, the guy learns how to, I guess, battle blind. Kudos for that.
They took a page from Final Fantasy VII, getting your healer out of the party.
Oh yeah, I was like, I
Yeah.
have no healer. I have no way of knowing the weakness of the enemy or destroying them. Like, you're not gonna know
Yeah.
anything. And you know how like throughout the game you progress, like you gain more abilities and you evolve. Like the level system was a disaster. Like there was no improvement in skills. It's like it was the same battle system with the some of like the same like abilities from beginning to end. It never evolved. So it wasn't fun. Like the only thing I found fun from the game was like just going to the chocobo run. At least I got that right, and I could like ride a
Yeah.
chocobo on the highway if I wanted to. So kudos for
Now
that.
that you mention this, do you think that the merger between Squaresoft and Enix has it been good for the company moving
Mm,
forward?
oh, it's
Because I
been
think,
monetary.
yeah, in that sense, yeah. But I think that the storytelling aspect and the gameplay has suffered like a lot, especially the gameplay, which is mind-boggling when you think that they did that merger because Enix did better gameplay than Square did back in the day. But I
Yeah,
don't know what happened there.
I'm pretty
So I
sure
don't know. I don't know.
a lot of people that were in Square, so when that merger happened, they left.
True.
Whatever was from their own will, or they got fired or something after that, and I don't know. But that's the thing, that main talent that was there, a lot of it was lost. And Square Enix taking over, like it became more for profit than anything. I mean, Like think about like Final Fantasy X, the quality of delivery of that game, and then you have 10-2 is the first Square Enix game, and how like low that went.
True.
How low it went. You were like, okay, that's the change in management and engineers and everything in one game. If there's something that they've been consistent over the years, is that they're the people pushing the graphics forward. Like
True.
honestly, Final Fantasy 15 had the best looking French toast that I could cook ever in my life. I give that to them, but I don't need to see the French show in details. I need a good gameplay and a good storyline, and they didn't deliver that. And I paid for this, and you're not giving me any of it. And on top of that, like you say, they don't even match it up in a sequence so it feels like a complete game. Like it never goes like that. You're supposed to feel out of order and be like fascinated by it. And that's the game that did it for me. And I'm saying now, like it ruined Final Fantasy. I'm probably not gonna buy the next Final Fantasy. I didn't like the trailer anyways. It didn't entice
Yeah,
me, but
it
I
looked
don't
nice.
trust them. And I think that's an opinion that a lot of like the old Final Fantasy gamers have, that
Yeah.
15 ruined the experience for them. A lot of people that are newcomers to the series might not understand how it used to be. They might think that the game is it's fun, it's fine, like it's okay. I'll keep paying for it and good for them. But for me, it just did it. Like it destroyed me. Like it hurts, you know. Like as was a beloved series, and now I can't trust them. And also, I gotta say, they didn't take as much advantage as they should have with the villain. I thought the villain was good. I thought the villain had a lot of potential. Like the story and how they connected, how he was once a hero, he became the villain. It's tragic, it's sad, and like you understand his motivations and his hatred for everything, and you're just like, wow, you're incredible. But I wish it would have been developed more. Oh, but they're not developing anymore because we got a DLC for you for that too. So it's become a cash cow. That's about it.
They're lacking characters though, because when you think about it, I have not played aside from 10-2, which I mean I played 15, right? But yeah, I stopped for that reason. Aside from that, I have not played. Either 12, 13, all the 13s basically, 14, and yeah, I did not finish 15. But when you think about characters, right? You think about Squall from Final Fantasy 8. You think about Cloud from Final Fantasy 7. You think about the monkey guy. I forgot his name from Final
Sedan.
Fantasy Sindane from 9. You think about Titus and Yuna from 10. You do not think about any other main character aside from Lightning from 13. And Lightning was because they tried to push her in other mediums like the Cydia, that, right? They're lacking characters. That's it. Face front. They're lacking characters. And they're lacking characters not only in Final Fantasy, they're lacking characters in Kingdom Hearts too. It's been lacking all over the place. And it's sad because I think that this might be my hot take. It's late, but this might be a hot take. I think that Square is not to a better start if they do not go back to making great characters. That's what they're missing. It's not story. I think that story, yeah, I'm with you. Story is way off rails, but they're missing great characters that in unison make a great compelling story. If you don't have that, you can have a great story and not have this great tempo characters. You're not gonna sell it for me
Well,
because
you say great characters. You know what the saddest part of the 15 is? That the concept of the bros on the road was brilliant. It
sure.
had potential, and that hurts even more because they ruined it. So they have the characters, you just don't know what to do with them.
True.
All right, so here I don't have my shirt on or whatever, but I'm gonna say I disagree. No, I don't disagree with your take on Final Fantasy, especially coming at it from the perspective that you are, like you said, as a old school fan, and then you compare it to this and what they're like. I get that too. I agree with all of your criticisms of Final Fantasy 15. But even though you are right about all of your criticisms of Final Fantasy 15, I like that game. I enjoyed that game. I enjoyed that game for other reasons, right? So I agree that the biggest flaw in that game to me is the story is clearly unfinished. Like there is no story there. All right, that story is unfinished, and they didn't even finish it with the DLC. That's obvious. Um, I agree. The romance thing, like I didn't even get that. Like that dog thing was so weird to me or whatever. I never felt like I was actually. Oh come on!
Oh.
See, I'm telling you, they're trying to silence
Every
me.
single time, man.
So I never.
No, it's Square. It's not the TVA.
It's
I never,
Square.
I never felt, yeah, I never felt like I was getting stronger, even though you were leveling up. Like I wish there was more. I could find more equipment and stuff like that, and be anyway. So I agree with basically everything you said, but I still had so much fun playing that game, and I've even thought about going back to platinum. I'm never gonna do it, but I've thought about that or whatever because, and I'll tell you why. This is the reason why I like this. So this is why I say you're right for your perspective, and maybe newcomers, quote unquote newcomers like me, enjoyed this game just fine because we like other things that maybe the hardcore Final Fantasy fans don't enjoy, right? Or are not looking for in a JRPG like that. So I enjoyed the relationship between the characters, the main characters, the bros, right? The touch of them talking constantly throughout the fights, that worked for me. Like I enjoyed the fact that they were always talking even amongst the fights. Like, yeah, do this. Oh, that's awesome. Did you see me? Like I enjoyed that, right? And it was just fun for me to like I honestly felt like I was friends with all of these characters, especially Ignis, but I actually enjoyed these characters and I believed that they had a relationship. So I enjoyed that aspect to it, even though their story didn't work. But I did enjoy their relationship with one another. And I don't know how many hours you put into it, but I put like too many hours into the game too. Like, so I spent a lot of time just running around with these guys. So I felt close to them. But the other thing, the reason why I enjoyed this game was the first game that became a Zen game for me. So I would play this game. I was actually suffering from insomnia at that time, and a lot of anxiety. And Final Fantasy 15 was what helped me get through that because I would just put it on. I would pick a point like a mission, a side mission, or a side quest or whatever, and I would just let the car drive on its own, like automatically. I wouldn't control the car. So I would just be relaxing, just listening to the sounds, listening to maybe them talking to each other, and then we'll get to my destination. I'll fight a little bit monsters, and then we'll do it again. I'll drive back, and it was just so relaxing for me. So obviously that's not the reason why you play a Final Fantasy game, right? But that's why I enjoyed it. Like I had so much fun, and I remember telling Luis this. Like I told him, like I was playing this every single night because that was the only thing that would help me relax and then get to sleep. And I just put it on, and I would relax in this world. So those two things I enjoyed, like going to the campfire and eating, cooking the food and whatnot, and the sounds, like that was zen for me. That was relaxing for me. I enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed that leveling up system. That system where you can only level up at the end of like when you go to the campfire. I enjoyed that. Maybe they didn't explode, like it wasn't as great as it could have been, but I like the idea of it, right? I like when you're out there and you have all this XP, like should I risk it? Should I keep playing? Or should I go back to the campsite? I like that aspect to it. So ultimately I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed playing Final Fantasy 15. Even though everything that you said about the game is true. That's all I want to say. I enjoyed it even though it wasn't, it's not a great Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, I agree with your points. I am not much of a person with the automatic riding car. I wish that could have been like much faster for me, to go from point A to point B. Just because I'm impatient overall. The campsite and just cooking your food and hanging out with your bros and the relationship between them was good. I just felt like that was it. That was it in the game.
Yeah.
And fun fact, the director got fired after that. Shouldn't be so fun, but for him.
Fun
but
for us, not for.
Because we also have to understand too, like the reason, like this is not making like there's no excuses for this, right? But like it's more than obvious that this game, even the version that we got after 10 years or whatever, it still wasn't finished. Like it's more than obvious that this game still wasn't finished. This game was one thing and transformed midway into another thing. It jumped from generations, and it was like it went into development hell. So in all honesty, going through all of that they went through, and they still put out this product, I don't know. I think that Final Fantasy 16 has a potential to be at least a good Final Fantasy game. I don't think it's going to be like memorable, like one of the best, but I think it's going to be a good because I don't think that this game is going to suffer from the development hell that this one suffered from. And even Final Fantasy 7, right? Final Fantasy 7 has also the remake has gone through this process of changing the developers midway or whatever. The visions have changed, and you can see that affected the end result. For some reason, I just feel like 16 is going to be more of a contained product. We're not going to wait 10 years for this game. It's going to come out when it comes out, and maybe that might be a good thing. Maybe that's what we're waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, for me, even though I agree with with your take that this game is more of a zen approach to Final Fantasy, I hated the car, man. I hated the fact that you have to drive in real time. I just hated that so much because the battle system, it's more like Kingdom Hearts. So this is more fast paced. Let's keep this ball rolling, moving. And then you have the send movement, and I was like, I get the bro thing. I have bros. Most of my friends are males, and we have the bro things. Me and we have all sorts of stories. But the thing is that that's cool in real life. It does not translate that well, at least for me, because the battles, yeah, that was brilliant. But you have just having them in the car after a battle is like, why? And I don't know. I think that maybe the best thing that could happen for Square right now is that they don't have 2 or 3 projects that they're trying to tackle, because 15 came out while they were tackling Kingdom Hearts 3 and the remake, which we didn't know at the time. So having even though 7 remake took like the better part of it, right, and it's the best like polished product out of all 3. I think that at the end of the day, all 3 suffer from that. From that decision to split the resources, do all that, because 7 remake, for its good things and for its flaws, the game looks amazing. It plays like an old game, and that's the same thing that happened with Kingdom Hearts 3. It's just that. The thing about Kingdom Hearts 3 is that since it had been for a long time, like 15 years or 14 years or so, the nostalgia factor was not as strong as 7 remake. And I'm not saying that justifies Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm not saying that. It's just that we were not entranced with Kingdom Hearts 3 by the time it came out, because we have forgotten about it. Including me, that I'm a huge fan. I played every single one. So maybe the nostalgia factor puts up Final Fantasy VII up to another level of scale. Just because when you look at it, you're like, man, yeah, but it's like how Ambition Cloud, how I saw Tifa in my head, whatever.
Is that gonna do it for Rant?
I mean, I think you all know that I'm upset about storytelling. I'm upset about spending so much money. And I mean, it's not cyberpunk level where it doesn't work, but like, what do you do when somebody releases an incomplete story? Like, you can't do anything about it. They sold you a functional game, so yeah.
And
They
even
told you the story, like they gave you the animated thing. They gave you this other thing. They gave you the DLC, and you still don't have a complete story. Right? That was ridiculous. That was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I
they
forgot
sell
about
you that. Yep.
If you guys were to put like or make a prediction, do you think we will get FF16 before 7 Remix Part 2, or vice versa?
I have a preference, but I don't know really. I think
I
maybe
don't
16.
know.
Because
I
when you
think
think
7
about it,
remake first.
they're making
Just think
both
the
games
remake.
at the same time.
Yeah, I think 7 remake is coming
My
out
my
first.
concern is, well, I mean, I assume they have 2 different teams working on these, and but
Hopefully.
we have seen something about 16 and nothing about the remake.
Yeah, but it's completely CG, right? So I don't know how convinced I am about that what we saw. I don't know. You might be right.
That's
It's true.
true.
We've seen something from that. We haven't seen anything from Seven. I just feel like Seven remake. It's not like they finished Seven remake part one, took a break, and now let's work Seven remake. I think that they've been working on both parts or all three parts, whatever they're gonna do
Mhm.
simultaneously, and they're gonna come out whenever they're ready. So I just that's why I feel like Seven remake part two we might see it first. I think it's further along in development. I just
Because
don't think it needs a trailer
because they
because we
have
know
a
it's
lot
coming.
of the groundwork, I think, too. You know, they're not
Hmm.
having to build every asset from scratch like they did with the rim, the first part. So that makes sense as well. I just hope
Yeah.
that they're no that like they went on a bad direction for me with the Yuffie episode. We talked about it in length, so I just hope that they don't ruin it, man. Because it started out well, but then as I revisit it, I start finding little flaws here and there. But my nostalgia got me through it the first time, which is about as much as I can ask for. But that episode was bad, or like just
And it's a shame because I don't know how the action RPG game. It has a weird name. I don't think Island something, Final Fantasy Origins Island, whatever. But that, the reaction to that, first you could have download the demo, so that was a huge flaw on their end. But aside from that, the game played like awful, and the trailer was bad. So you have, if you think about the timeline here, you have 14, which is the MMO, right? That's still running. They've been able to keep that momentum going on, and that's their Destiny 2 type of story, right? They've been going strong on that one. But you have 15, which was really bad, you know, not as worse as 10-2, but not much better. So you have 15, and then you have 7 remake, which is like better polished product. No, I mean, you have 15, then you have Kingdom Hearts, right? Which was good but not great, and people were expecting like great things. Then you have 7 remake, which is really really good. Um, then you have Origins, whatever island, the RPG oriented one, which looks like it might be a flop if they don't change course or whatever or correct it. And then you might have 7 remake part 2, which will be excellent, possibly, right? We're hoping. So it's sad for them. I'm laying out this timeline because I think this represents what Square Enix merger is in our minds. It's not greatness. It's just meh, good, maybe awesome, mad, good, maybe awesome. And that's really bad when you think about, this. I wonder if Persona, even though Persona 5, in my mind, one of the best JRPGs, I need to go back to it to just dedicate myself because I think it deserves the time. But just seeing it, the first two temples, I think since there has been a drop in JRPGs. We've been looking for this spectacle. Persona 5 came in just right, at the specific time, delivering high polished content, fast paced action, great, characters that just merged together so beautifully. And it was just awesome. It made Square look like a baby, from a distance. Because and Atlas is not a big company, not by Square means, like, no. Atlas is not an indie developer because they're not. But when you compare size, scope, and budget and all that, yeah, it's like an indie. Like they just started yesterday. And man, they made them, a run for her money. That's for sure.
all right. And Rubykat, you did beat it, right? You ended up telling us on the chat that basically you pushed through it, and that is gonna be a theme that we're gonna be touching on. So you could take it as a second part kind of to this, because we 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 did it last week. But we are gonna end up starting, if you guys agree, with that topic on the next week's
Yeah.
podcast. Because I have a very early and long day tomorrow.
Yeah. So I wanted to say something real quick. Then, just since we're closing off,
Hmm.
and we're not gonna have a main topic, so I wanted to take advantage and recommend you guys something. I think I might have mentioned it before or whatever, but I want to do it again. The movie trivia schmodown. Right, I'm gonna write it here. I'm gonna write it after this. It's movie trivia because it's spelled in a certain way, right? This is on YouTube. On YouTube. So the movie trivia schmodown. I recommend you guys this. This is basically movie trivia and wrestling mixed together, right? And I've been watching this. I've been watching this for a few years. I'm not gonna put this on the. Don't put those expectations on me. This is not on the level of Bo Burnham, all right? This is just more of a Manuel thing. But I would like somebody else to talk to about it eventually, at least one episode or two or whatever. So basically, it's movie trivia, right? This is basically the seventh season. So you guys, I've watched it completely. You guys don't have to do that. This is the season to jump in because it's a lot of new players. It's a lot of new formats. They're changing a lot of things. Maybe even wait to next season, but that'll be next year or whatever. But anyway, the reason I recommend this is, like I said, it's trivia and wrestling. So there's storylines, there are villains, there are character arcs. There's all this stuff, right? And they have different divisions. So they have the Schmodown, which is just regular trivia. Then they have the Inner Geekdom, which is only like comic book movies, superheroes, Harry Potter, stuff like that. And then they have the Star Wars division, which is, if you want to get your mind blown, those people, like the details. Remember, what was the sticker on the side of this ship in this scene in this Star Wars movie? And they know the numbers. Like, it's crazy. Star Wars has evolved so much in that thing. And they also have team competitions or whatever like that. That's a different division. So this past week was the Inner Geekdom Championship. This is why I'm bringing it up. This is why I'm recommending it. It was the Inner Geekdom Championship, and then one of my favorite players, which is Mike Kalinowski, and he was going up against he's the current champion. He was going up against Chandru, which is I can't stand them at all. And what they're doing with this character is the worst. He's become a true heel, like he's the heel of the league right now, and he took it to another level. Because I don't follow these guys on Twitter because I don't want spoilers or whatever. But apparently they interact on Twitter and stuff like that, and they'd be hating on each other and like, oh, get ready for this match and stuff like that. And apparently Chandru took it to another level, and he disrespected like the legends of the game or whatever. So Mike came out and after they did the whole hype reel and stuff, and he started talking to Chandru before the I was gonna say the fight because it's basically a fight. And the trivia is real. I just want you guys, like, the trivia is real, even though it's like they have these character arcs. So the trivia part is real competition, and then the rest is just wrestling or whatever. And he takes it out and he starts talking to him and he's saying, everything he's done, he doesn't respect the league and stuff like that. And he pulls out a picture with Mike and the three people that he disrespected. So the three legends of the game, all three of them are retired right now. So Mike has played all three of them and he's beat all three of them. And he was actually a villain in all three matches. So they weren't friends back then. But since they all champions, they respect each other. And Mike took out the picture and he was like, don't you ever disrespect these people. These are the greats. I'm doing this for them. He put the picture in front of the table and he played the match with the picture, and this is for them. And that was so awesome, like, to watch the fight. Like, you're rooting for Mike. You want him to win because he's doing this for a reason, right? And I'm so invested in the storyline. I'm not going to say who won, who lost, just in case you guys want to look it up. But it's thrilling, right? It's just thrilling. It's just so much fun. Most of the time, I just skip the storylines and I just go straight to the match. But if you're interested in this wrestling world or whatever, like, they have all of that in them. And right now, they have a hybrid format because of the COVID or whatever. Some of the matches are online. Some of the matches are finally in person. But if you get the chance to watch an in-person match with crowd cheering and yelling and with the hype going in and all of the entrances and all that stuff, like, it's so much fun, man. And I wish you guys could have seen how it got to here, right? Because this started off with simple trivia and it's been evolving as it goes, and it's becoming more and more popular, and it's become this thing now. Like, now this is really, like, it's becoming a thing. I hope one day it's going to become, like, real big. But anyway, I just wanted to have that recommendation. Maybe one of you guys check it out. Movie Trivia Schmodown on YouTube.
All right, with that recommendation, we're gonna leave it off for tonight. I should be back on Thursday, streaming, and the No Name Crew will be back again on Tuesday as usual to get going. We're gonna be back again with like the main topic that's we're gonna start with. That is gonna be what games, if any, we basically push through, force ourselves to play, and for what reason. And then we'll go from there with everything, the news and stuff, everything that comes out during the week. So thank you everyone for coming out. You all have a great night.